Wow, there are a lot of people here. Well done, BigchainDB, for the amazing community you have here in Berlin, but also internationally connected. It's an incredible honor for us to be able to really produce this event with you and have an amazing set of contributors tonight. The speakers we have here tonight, they all have inspired me a lot, and I'm sure they will inspire you a lot. So Jan-Peter will explain more about what the heck he sees in Nature 2.0 and, as he calls it, crazy shit. But I think that the crazy shit part was last year. I mean, what you get when you combine machines and AI and blockchain, yeah, you might call it crazy shit, but I think by now we have seen that you can build stuff that actually makes a lot of sense in a society where we fix things in a different way for our own society. We don't hand out all these things to the big corporates or governments. No, we can do stuff ourselves, and we can build that together in open collaborative ecosystems. And that's really what we want to foster, and therefore I think it's very valuable that we have this connection between the Netherlands and Germany, but I think this is actually a global connection we see here. Because how many people are actually not from the Netherlands or Germany here? All right, so that's pretty awesome. So just also to get a bit of a sense, who is a developer here? Who checked in code today? Okay, quite a lot. And who is not working in the blockchain space, but in, for example, for a corporate or a government or? All right. So your clients are over there. No, just kidding. Well, they are very important. So actually, what we do at DutchChain and with the Blockchaingers Innovation Program, of which you can see the whole full year cycle on the drawings, the visualizations on the walls over there. So have a look during the break. It's actually, we've coined it as co-creating the next operating system for society. Let's say our society runs on an operating system, just like your mobile phone or a laptop. And we have installed stuff on it. We've installed a system called democracy in most of the countries. Some countries have installed other software. But basically we use all kinds of public and private infrastructure to organize ourselves. One of the problems is that we use a lot of internet infrastructure which is privately owned in a public way, and we need to change that. And otherwise, the public infrastructure, for example, the government, is not always usable as much as we would want it to have. What I really like about the public-private infrastructures, for example, is the thing we have is called traffic, right? Trust, if it's digital or if it's in systems, allows us to collaborate with people we do not know, or machines we do not know. We do that each day in traffic when we drive a car, for example. And then you could ask, how do I organize trust in the system of traffic? Right? Well, how do we do that? We have rules, we have a protocol, all right. Well, what do we have more? Police, we have enforcement of the rules, we have governance. What we also do is we audit the drivers, for example. We have licenses, certificates. And we do the same thing with the vehicles. And also, we have insurance. Insurance, you have to have insurance, or if not, you cannot drive a car. Well, you can, but it's illegal. So in that way, you see there's a whole ecosystem, so to say, of organizations and entities that are collectively building trust in the system of traffic. And you have to be in there as well, co-creating that trust as a good driver, of course, but because you can still decide not to stick to the rules. But there you see that trust is basically a collective effort, and you can also measure the amount of trust in that system. For example, if you would say, oh, you don't need a driver's license anymore, you don't need an insurance anymore, then the level of trust could decline, right? And it's my belief, it's our belief, that we need an abundance of trust to solve the challenges we are facing in the 21st century, and specifically challenges that cannot be solved by just one organization, but they can only be solved by a network of organizations or ecosystem. We have to solve them together. Right? And for some of these challenges, we can very well use machines and very smart networks of machines. So therefore, DutchChain and the Blockchaingers is like an incubator, so to say, for decentralized solutions that need an ecosystem. Right. And I think it's time to get Jan-Peter with me to talk about a very interesting type of ecosystem, which you have coined together with Trent, Nature 2.0. Can you already explain a bit, and why do you think it needs, for example, a hackathon?
Welcome. What touched me in Nature 2.0, that it was a result of a crazy question, a question you normally never ask. Because we were looking for disruption, and normally if we innovate, we are looking for answers. But with every answer we have a lot of assumptions to defend our answers. And that means we are normally stick in incremental innovation. As soon as we start to ask crazy questions, we see things we haven't seen before, and probably nobody's looking at. So what happened was that we asked ourselves, how can it be that 8.7 million species have working ecosystems for their housing, for their food, for their transportation, for their energy, and none of those ecosystems use money, use ownership, and don't use identity like we do, and still they function. How can that be? And why are humans the only species who would die of hunger because they do not have green paper? Because if animals look at us, they wouldn't understand, because you cannot eat green paper. So why does it make you starve of hunger? In Nature 2.0, you are invited to ask crazy questions, to get inspiration from places you normally don't do it. And it's funny to have one guy telling about some ideas, but the power lies in the community. And this is why hackathons are so cool, because in the hackathons, many people come together and start building their story, their dreams, those things that incentivize them. And what you then see arising is a kind of wisdom of the crowd. So I will tell you about what I like about Nature 2.0, but the important thing will be, what do you like about Nature 2.0? What are your dreams? What is your contribution to society? And then you will see in the hackathon, we can build it together.
Cool. So, Jan-Peter, you work at an energy grid operation company, yeah, right? So, I think that's already pretty awesome and far out that an energy grid operator embarks on a mission like that. And so if you look at the DutchChain ecosystem, what we have gathered also at the hackathon, this is your opportunity to work with people like Jan-Peter, but also from several ministries, from, for example, the Dutch Land Registry, officials from European Union or the police, even doctors. I will tell more about the program a bit later in the program, tonight at the end. But it's really that we have everybody on board, which you won't have normally in the room, and where you can solve difficult, complex questions in 1 hour instead of 4 weeks. And that's why it's so amazing to have 1,000 people collaborating in one weekend, well prepared. So before I introduce the rest of the program, can I have the short video clip, because I thought it would be nice to show you a bit of how the hackathon was, and then we go, after that we go straight into what kind of solutions come out and what, how do they, yeah, we have sound, right? We tested that a lot of times, of course.
Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known.
Welcome to the Blockchaingers hackathon.
You will build these amazing solutions and you will take them far beyond this hackathon into the real world. I know that you will make it happen.
Keep in mind that you are my ambassador for a better world.
More than 700 blockchains, machine-to-machine energy transition, health, public safety and security, global digital identity, digital nations infrastructure, future of pensions.
Can you imagine your solutions impacting 1 billion lives?
This is the biggest hackathon that we have been to so far, so next level on our experience. Level up.
Well, if you want to take it to the next level, you have to actually impact people's life.
We got a choice to make about how we run this planet. I think it's very important that the human race becomes adult, and I think blockchain is an essential technology to facilitate that transformation.
There's a lot of good ideas. Some of them are applicable in the next few months. Some of them are really short-term benefit that can really make life better for everybody. Some of them are really futuristic. They will happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
Can you imagine your unexpected discovery changing our perspective forever?
We are going to do things fundamentally different. The question is how, and that's where people here find answers.
For now, we start here, yes, of course, but it's very scalable, so we can grow even further to the international market.
It's not that you do this and you know for sure that you're going to hit it. What happens is if you don't do this, you know for sure you're not going to. So we make these endeavors not because it's the simple, easy way of doing things, but because it's the price of participation in the future.
So if we can make this in such a short amount of time, who knows what we can do in 100 days.
This is the first one, and I think I'm gonna go again.
I think the government also has a responsibility not to stay behind, but to be part of the front-runner group.
What I think is really powerful this way is that you bring together the coders, you bring together people with the creative ideas, and the potential clients, you know, the businesses. So it's the government and the corporates. And so I think that is really powerful.
I was in the judge room and I saw how difficult it was to decide which project is best. And I can assure you, I visited most of them in the few hours I was here, and I was impressed by all the implications of the projects which have been created in only 4 days.
We can't talk about blockchain all the time. We have to talk about what it is doing. And we have to think through how this is actually changing our society for the better. Because we do have to take everybody along.
We created a blockchain solution that is creating transparency in the whole distribution chain of medicine, especially in countries in Africa, where we have created provenance so that at the end of the road we can confirm that the medicine is authentic by the time it reaches the patient.
Our solution is that we create pension awareness for millennials via microtransactions. They can see that they invest €1 of deposit money from plastic bottles, and they can see that it'll be worth €14 when they retire.
The problem is that in medical research, participants are not well informed about how they can contribute their data. So we built a matchmaking platform to link data donors to researchers in such a way that their privacy is preserved and they are well informed about all the opportunities. So we empower the participant to be in control and help accelerate research.
We solved the problem that when you move, the worst case scenario is that you get disconnected due miscommunication between the operator and supplier. And we gave insight real time to all involved parties, that everybody always know what the contract status is of your energy switch.
Our solution is a solution for the supply chain of weed, such that we have a transparent way to track the production, selling of weed to end users in such a way that the end user remains anonymous where necessary. And you can still enforce the rules.
We came up with a self-conscious house which tracks its own life cycle and helps the owner of the house with maintenance decision making and suggests on improving itself.
So we've put blockchain on drones, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with this. So you can go explore rainforest, you can do search and rescue, you can have drones delivering resources to build other drones. So we provided a whole ecosystem where drones can collaborate and solve all kinds of problems.
So basically, we all know this movement, and when we want to create all these new solutions on top of this decentralized infrastructure, where we figure out what should be private and what should be public, and how we deal with incentives and paying people or things for the stuff we want them to do or that contribute to the network success, then we have to take a lot of people with us. I mean, we are now here, I think we had 150 signups for today, but literally this is a global movement. And the world we are moving from and the world we are moving towards are quite different. The mindset in the world we are still in today, the world of the organization Jan Peter works, or some of our clients, whether they are governmental or corporate, are still rooted on the left side, which I like to call the ecosystem, where a couple of guys on top of the mountain or the pyramid control whatever the rest is doing within that. And also, of course, creating a pyramid which is as big as possible. It's not sustainable, as has been pointed out several times already this evening. And basically, we have three options, and the majority of the people know of two. The first option is defending the status quo. That option is losing. It's losing to the option of no. And just do whatever the hell he or she that says no and that has a lot of followers that agree with that no, basically go back in time. Which is radicalizing, and Europe has quite a history, but the US tries that history again as well. So this is about creating the alternative to move forward. This is the other option, of which we don't know how it will look like, but everybody in this space is eager to find out how we will do it, and how we will do it in a way that we can tell our children and children's children that we went the different direction in history here. I hope that was made clear already this evening as well. So the question really then becomes is how can we create these new waves without owning them, where you can still have a business that is focused on effective operating without moving towards philanthropy. How can you combine basically the commons with private incentives? And therefore we look at a new way of innovating, a new way of moving together, moving forward together and co-create this future. And therefore you need everybody on board. So here we have the regulators, for example, the Dutch Central Bank or the Dutch Authority for Financial Markets. The energy regulators have a different way of looking at things. Of course, universities and other types of educational institutes, the NGOs, the start and scale-ups, because they don't want to do anything old and they want to do something new, and let's find out what we can do. And of course, you need funding to move forward. So then when you put in funding, let's say skin in the game, what do you get back if that is not an exit of a company or an IPO or what have you? Maybe there are royalties, like you invest in a band. Maybe you invest in the object that it grows into the network. These are things we are finding out. How can you incentivize that? And how can you persuade and motivate launching customers, which are basically rooted in that, still in that ecosystem, to invest in a future they cannot own by themselves. They're investing in stuff that is also available for their competition, etc. So that's why we have this annual cycle to align ecosystem activities, and it's again it's on the large papers. And we start in September with the Future of Trust Summit, where we articulate all the challenges. Then we have all kinds of deep dives. For example, a regulatory deep dive at the Dutch National Bank, or a technical deep dive at one of the technical universities, but also an ethical and cultural deep dive, where basically the tough debate on whether we're creating the right thing happens in a very open way, all towards the largest hackathon, blockchain hackathon on the planet. But it's not really so much about blockchain as it's much more about, well, basically the whole story of today, creating a new public-private infrastructure which we cannot maybe co-own, but maybe it's just there, and really make that useful for our society. So the Future of Trust Summit, and this is to point out how important this is to the Netherlands. The Future of Trust Summit is in our most important building. So 1 week after the king gives his speech on that throne, we are all here at roundtable sessions articulating all the challenges from our corporate and governmental sponsors to make sense in this decentralized world, right? And then you move forward to all the deep dives, which is really nice to connect. And then we have the deep dives on all the challenges in February. So then you will, for instance, go to Jan Peter's headquarters, or he will select a location, and you really go deep into the challenges. And then of course we have the Blockchaingers hackathon, and you already saw that. We have a specially developed canvas which helps all the teams make progress and not have them only focus on the technical part of the solution, because that's just part of it, but just also focus on the rest. That's very important, because I think the technical part, everybody can do that with skills, but really a decentralized solution is also about starting a movement, creating a community, something that also BigchainDB and Ocean understand really well, and could get you all here together. We use a really appreciative score model, so it's not really about a beauty contest who can do the best pitch, but it's really about appreciating each team and all the efforts that the teams are doing. It's not just the winners that continue, but it's at least 4 of the 10 teams for each track we have. We also do it on a European scale. So last June we tackled the problem of anti-counterfeited goods. The customs were there, manufacturers were there, logistics operators were there. So you have all the stakeholders in the room to figure out what the best type of solutions are. And what happens is that they're not just IT solutions or smart contract solutions that come out, they are protocol solutions, they are network solutions. So really open source, easily adaptable, not dependent on the team, but more on what can the network bring to the success of the particular protocol solution. So you are invited to check out the Future of Trust Summit on futureoftrust.eu. Apply. We have a hand-picked seating for each table, so please motivate really well on what kind of topic you would like to contribute and in what kind of role, as a developer, policymaker, lawyer. We have multidisciplinary roundtable discussions, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's it for the Blockchangers. For tonight, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank BigchainDB and Ocean for having us. I want to thank all the teams that took the effort, Oscar, Dan, Heishel, to tell the stories, and Parity, of course, for updating us, Dimi for sharing his thoughts on Nature 2.0, and hope to see you all on one of the deep dives or at the hackathon. Let's have a drink. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here tonight.